So its class is on. So before we start the API, right, creating API, the motive, right, the intention why we need API. Okay, why do we need API, right? So normally in full stack web development, you have server, right? Server is basically the computer, right, which is running continuously. Okay, and it holds all our data, right, all our data. Okay, like all the HTML, everything, image, whatever you need, right, is hold here. Database is also a server, right? Server with data management software installed there, right? This database might be in the same computer within the server, or maybe somewhere else in the cloud, right? It does not matter. Okay, so normally in our full stack development, what we do, if we have database from other computer, you're just gonna get the API links and connect to that one. Okay, you just connect with that one, right? You have the one JavaScript file and make a connection to the database. So you have to establish the connection, right? So let's say we establish the connection to the database to our server. Correct, we did that. So you have maybe server file with some code, and that will make a connection to the database. Now this is server, right? So there is a user data. Just imagine there is a user. Okay, you need to fetch user, right? User from database. So you want to get all user. So API is the, is a small program or function, right? And after writing that function, it will give you the link. Okay, like HTTP, in our case localhost 3000 slash API slash something, right? Maybe user. Okay, so let's say that is our API route, that is a link. Link is route. So that route, let's say get all user, the server, the server will call that route. Okay, and there is a connection to the database, and it will get the all user data, right? It will get all user data. Okay, and that data will be, if we are displaying in the UI, right, in our website, so that data will be passed here. Correct, we get the list of all user here. You can do that, right? List of all user. The next is single user. So by ID, right? If you want to get single user, there will be ID. So same process, you make, there will be a function, there is a route, and that route will request the data from the database through the server, and that single user will be sent to the outside display page or UI page. Okay, post, right? In the case of post, you have HTML form. Maybe you have ID, username, or maybe username, email, something, right? Post. So when you submit that button, the data will be first go to the API. API will collect all that information, right? Here, API will get all the information, and that information will be sent back to the database, right, through server, because server is the one handling everything. Okay, even this API is within the server, right? So they are handling, and data will be sent to the database. Correct. Post. Update, same thing. Update means, update has two way, right? You get the data from the database for ID, single ID, and then you make change, and that data will be updated back to the database. Correct. And delete, also you have an ID, right? You have one ID, the ID of the user you want to delete. So you gonna make request. First you will check, right, if that user exists in the database or not. You're gonna check. If that is true, then you just make a delete, just write the delete command, right, and it will delete. And after, you can return some message. Correct, message to maybe user here, right, to make sure that is deleted already. So that's how, basically it works, right? So in our nextjs has already built in server inside. Correct. So all the files are in the server. If any files which needs event, or maybe let's say UI interaction, right, then we make it use client. We know that already. We know how to navigate and all that, right? We know that one. So how we create API? There is a set of rule we're gonna follow, right, to create API. So let's start now. The first one is in your app folder, right, in the app, right, you're gonna create the folder called API. Okay, and after you create folder users, right, users, inside users you add routes.tsx, right, tsx here. Okay, now you see one more folder here, right, with ID inside the user. Why? Because later we're gonna deal with single user, to get user with ID. In that case we have to write the our API inside this ID file, okay, inside this ID, right, so that we have access to that ID, this route here. Okay, or maybe you want to update or you want to delete, right, all that will go inside here because we are dealing with ID. But let's say get all user or post will go inside this route directly in the user, right? So user, so now in the route here we're gonna start writing the code, right? So let's go back. Okay, let's see, let's check now, right? So here you're gonna get all the information I'm gonna talk now. Okay, everything I put here, right? So we're gonna make some dummy, like some kind of dummy, let's say interaction, right, to just understand how all these things work, because right now we don't have database or anything. Okay, so we just understand all the methods of the HTTP request, like get, post, put, delete and all that. So if you read this, getting, collection or all object, right, or maybe whatever data or collection you getting, all that getting, right, create, reading. Okay, remember the CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete, same thing is here. Okay, creating object, updating object, deleting object, that's the 4 operation we do, right, in our API. And also we validate the data. So today we're going to learn about Zod, right, Zod library, which going to help us to validate our data. Okay, we're going to use that because in our project we are using Zod to validate our data. So yeah, so that is all, right. This is the things we're going to do. The first one is get all user or get all collection, right. So we must follow the nextjs convention for creating API, correct? We must follow the nextjs convention, right? What is that? In the app folder you must have API folder, right, inside. Now you are creating API for what? For users, maybe products, maybe something else, right? So let's say if that is user, you create the main user folder and then add the route TypeScript, right, tsx route. If we have to deal with the ID, then there will be square bracket ID folder, and inside that folder you're gonna have the route file. Okay, done. So now, right, this is the simple code. So let's go back and write here. We're gonna import first. Okay, import next request and next response, right, response. So this is, remember before, right, there was request and response when you are writing controller in our API in the Express. I think, hope you guys remember, right? Still it's the same thing, but it's more advanced right now. Next.js just improve it with more functionality, whatever, right? So just remember that, but it's same thing. So request and response, and see how we're going to use to send a response, right? Okay, so now the next one is the function, right? Remember before we used to have get, post, put, delete, like that, right? Delete. And you used to write controller for all that, separate function name. But the good thing here is we don't have to do all that. We just have a get. This is the function, get function. Post is a function, right? Put is a function, and delete is a function. It's already the same name. Okay, it comes with the same name, right? So let's say function get, for example, get. That's it, like that. So this will be the route, let's say localhost. It should look like this: local host 3000, right, slash API slash users. When you do that, right, and because, and the file name, look at this file name, okay, route, right, in API there will be route, and for your route page, for the page, like user page or product page, there will be page. So don't mix up, right, it's not gonna work. We must, for API we must use route page, okay, route.tsx. So here, yeah, so that's this is a function, and we have to export this, okay, export, and done, right. The next thing is we must put something here, right, so we request request, and that request is equal to next request, right, next request. So why we add this one, right, why we add this one, I mean, we just add it here, right, because this request now, if you need to get the data from the body, right, later on in our post, it will be useful, but still we just add it. It's saying it's just added here, right, request, next request. So the reason was, I think oh, I forgot, right, and there is good reason for adding this here. Let's see, I got, I started morning, I checked, and I just forgot now, because even if you remove, it will work, okay, in getting all the data, it will work, right, but there is one good reason for adding this here. I think something to do with the let's say creating oh, okay. So when you add this one, right, it will not create the cache for our data, okay, it's not gonna create cache, right, it will always go and request for the latest data from the database. If we don't put this here, then let's say last time you get the data, all the data, right, all the users, next time when you try to get again, it will just get from the cache memory, it will not gonna get the new data, okay, from the database. So that's why it's recommended to put this here, and this will make sure we always receive the data from the database, and this is also used for getting the object from the body, and we will see in the post, right, when we use this. So next, remember this one, right, just add that and done. So the next one is, let's return now, right, return so response, let's send the next response, okay, response. And how you send response, add the JSON file, and here let's say I will send maybe one object is okay, ID equal to 1, and name is Dev, right, Dev. So I should get this object, okay, now, right, if I go localhost 3000 API slash user, my get should work. So let's run the server now, because we are in the same server. So we just right now we have no database, no connection, nothing, right, but thing is we just trying to mimic, right, trying to understand to get data, okay. So localhost 3000 slash users slash API, right, API, oh no, should be API slash users, okay, users, and I enter, and I should get that, right, see, it just responds me the ID, this one object, okay. So in getting data, that's the same thing, right, to get data, what happen is you're gonna have here fetch methods and all that, correct, you're gonna have fetch methods, and that will fetch all the data, and you're gonna send response with this data. So if you want to send the array, it's okay, right, normally you're gonna get array from your database most of the time, and see it refresh, and we still get array with one object right now, see that. So that is the get, right, get method. So I mean, in the future you will see that how you getting data from the database. We can check during our project, okay? But just remember, you have a data, and that will pass here, and it will be sent to the user. Basically, wherever the request is came from, right? It will send this API route will be sending the data all user, okay? Get all user, right? So yeah, so that is all here, okay? That is all here. Now the next one is getting single object. How are you going to do the single object, right? So let's go back here. To deal with ID, you make sure you create a folder with ID name, or you can name it anything, but it's ID, right? So let's give it ID. Inside we have the route file, route tsx, right? So here we're gonna try to fetch the data with single ID. For example, let's say let's imagine, right, users slash, and I'm gonna do maybe 5, right, and enter. So see, there is no route right now, it's not built, right? So user slash any number should send us to this folder, ID folder, inside this route. So let's, you know, write same thing now. Import request, right? Next request. Next response. Okay. So after that, how are we gonna write the function? It's same thing, you know, we just maybe copy this, right? Same thing, same. So put it here. Yeah, so see, we have passed this, right? Remember, we have passed this one. Now when you're dealing with the ID, now you have to remember what we did earlier, right? When you have users with ID and all that, how you access to that ID, right? So that was the props. Here you're gonna have another object, correct? That is basically props, right? Props. So yeah, so we're gonna pass this object here and call it props. Let's see why it's giving I mean, it's okay, right? If I say props here, what gonna happen? So it's saying this value never used, right? Props. So this props is what? This props will let's console log. I don't need. Yeah, let's console log, right? Console.log props. I want to show you guys again. See how this works. So let's see. Go down here, and let's make a request for this route now. Okay, we have the route, right? We should get this one at least, you know, or this response we should get, right, in this route, get request. So let's see. So enter again, and see, we get this, right? We get the data, okay? We get the data, but look at this props now. Look at this props. This is important, okay? This is important, right? See the object we get here? That's the params ID 5, right? See that? So this props is object, and I want to make it like this, same this structure like this, right? And also I have to write the type script for this. So interface, let's call it props, and that will be same object, right? Params, you know, just put it this one, you know, like this is fine, right? So you are getting params here, and params will be gonna, params is also object, so it's gonna have object with ID, and ID is number. Good. We just add ID will be always number, right? And here we say props like that. Look at this. Now this is the variable, right? Parameters. Yeah, so you can destructure this. How you gonna do that? Here, so we call params colon, and Again, params is also object, so you destructure that object and give it id here. Good to go. So we have the id available, guys. Look at this. So next time when you put id here, we should get id. So let's request again, right? Make a request, refresh, and we should get, okay, let's put 6 now, okay, because I want to show you guys how it working, right? So 6, and we get 6 here. Look at this. So our id is okay, right? We have an id. So let's imagine you have an id. Now you have the, the way to get the data from the database now, right? Because you make a connection and then you're gonna get, let's say this is the our database called MongoDB, MongoDB. From there, we're gonna have the model, and you call the model, and then in the model you pass this id and all that, and it will get you. So model dot get user by id or find something, remember. So that is all the database side, right? We're gonna learn so we're gonna learn Prisma, right? Prisma to handle our models and everything. So after api, I believe, yeah, so after api, most likely tomorrow, right, we're gonna look at that. We're gonna start the database. So yeah, so we got id, so simply just imagine now you have id, right, and you're gonna get the data. So here you can add it, maybe let's call it id, and the data is basically this data, right, name you want to get. Okay, just imagine that, right? And it should work now, so if we put refresh 6, see that, okay, so it creates another, okay, so something is not correct because id itself create, because we added the object, right? We don't need to do object, we just put id here and done. Yeah, so refresh, basically like that, right? We get something like that, and that is the, so for this id we can fetch, and we can, we can so this id, right, we can fetch, and basically we can use to get all the data and done. So that's how the get work for single user. Okay, for single user, the important is getting the id, and after fetching the data from database and then displaying here, right, returning there. So let's see what I have put here. Yeah, so same thing, interface. Okay, so now we can do one more thing, right? For example, let's say you want to add some kind of check now. Let's say if there is no data with id, what are you going to do now, right? If there is no data with id, so we can write some kind of a response, let's do that. So here I just put if condition, if id is greater than maybe 10, for example. That means let's imagine we don't have that user now, so return next response, and dot json, right, always. And here you put a message, or maybe error message, error, right? It will be no user found, and then you add the status object here, right? Status will be 404. Okay, good to go. And even here you can add status, like json. Yeah, so you sending, returning this array, comma, right? And you can put your own status, status 200, like that, and done. Okay, guys, so let's, I mean, we can check in this in our postman, right? See how it works. So let's go back here. Yeah, so now user API, let's say get, right, get, and you want to get this single user. Okay, let's put it 2, no problem. Send request, and you got the user with 2, and the status code is 200. Look at this status code. Okay, but what I will do, I will put here 11. Okay, so if id is greater than 10 or 11, right, then what we get, error message, no user found, right? See that? So we can do that. Okay, what is the next one now? Creating object, right? That is a method. Post method for creating user is post. We send the request to the endpoint and also the data to the body, right? So to post something, you have the API endpoint, right? You send the request to the post function and also put the data there in the body. Okay, if the in the real application we can do the validation also. We can do that. We can add something simple here, some validation like this. If invalid, then return 404, else return the data, right? So with the success status 201. Okay, so let's write, right? Post means you are posting data. So here we're not dealing with any ID. Okay, we're just posting, right? So simply here function post. Okay, request will be next request, and you put a bracket here. Okay, so we have to export, always export this, right? Export. Okay, so now right, what we're gonna do is, so how we get data, right, from the body of the, so when somebody fill out the form and submit, that data must be recovered here. We have to get the data, right? How you read the data, when that, normally, see what happened, this is just the API, right? API link. So this link you will be using in the HTML form or the nextjs form. So API link for postings, comma, and the data. You can attach the data also from the form and then submit, right? Handle the submit. Okay, that's how it works. So when you attach the data to the body of the API, how you gonna get here now? That's the question. So const, let's call it body, right? Equal to request dot json, simple simple like this. So we can make it async also, right? Here async, we can do that async await, because now just imagine you are getting data from the API from outside somewhere, or maybe we have the, it gonna take some time, right, to receive data. So we must make it async function, async await. Even here later on, right, when you deal with the outside database, you have to do that. So that's okay, but the concept we must understand, simple concept for now. So this will give us the body of the data now, right? Let's say in this body we're gonna just send the name. Okay, so if body dot name is falsy, no, right, there is no information, falsy value, then we return next response dot json, and here we can pass the object with error, right? Error, okay, and then just call it name is required, right? Required. Okay, and here we say the status 404, I believe, st, right? A T status, yeah, 404. But let's say there is a name in that body, right? There is a, this body is the object with a property name. If there is a name, then we must return next response dot json, and here you can pass this body, maybe if that is object, you just, So yeah, so we have to define the type here, right? JSON. Why? Okay, so body, next response dot body. We must define the type of the data, right? What we're gonna get. So yeah, so let's define that one. So we can write here. Okay, let's write on the top here, right? Interface, maybe what was that? Props, we call it props. And the body, right? So body is going to have is object, so there will be name call string. Yeah, so that should be just the object with name string, so that should be fine. So body, can you just put it props? Okay, something is not correct, guys. Something is, because I'm doing here request. Okay, this will be response. Next response. Yeah. So now right now we're gonna have this body. That's the data. Okay, that is our data, comma, and also we put a status here, status of 201. Okay, so let's test this, right? If everything looks fine, so that will put request, post request, and in the user, right? Because that's in the route, the user route. Okay, then we are sending data to the body. So JSON, right? JSON, raw JSON, select JSON here, and you just put something like this, object with the name property. So you must be in the quotation JSON file like that, and I will put it robot welker colon robot welker. So that is the data we're gonna send. So this is the endpoint, right? This is the URL or maybe API link for post, and that is the data we attach to this URL. Send, and see, we get robot welker, right? It just return this data, and status is 201. Look at this status. But what I will do, right, I'm going to remove this. Okay, I will just take the string out of here and then make a request again. So send the request, and error, name is required. Look at here, right? Name is required. Look at this. So that is the we added the validation, also simple validation, right? And then we just send the data what we have here. So whatever data you send, see, this will create to take action this function, post function, right? To make this post function work, that is the API, localhost 3000/users, right? And the method is post, because we select the post here, right? That is the post method, and then we attach the data also to the body. So that data is going along with this API. Okay, and this will run. If everything okay, it will give you the data. If not, it just give you the error, right? All right, so that was the post. The next one is updating. Okay, updating, right? To update user, we send request to the endpoint. Okay, means you have the API link, right? With the there will be API link with ID. You're gonna make requests to your database, right? So in basically in update, what happened? You are fetching the data. Okay, you are fetching the data for that ID. You make a change and then you submit. That's what we do, right? So we will try to understand that here in our postman. Okay, so validate the request of the body first, means you fill out the form, you make it, basically change the forms, submit, and that data will be again going same like a post. You receive all the data and then you basically update, right? Check if the user does not exist and then send the response with the update user, right? So we have to do all these things. So how are we going to handle that? So we're going to use put method, right? Put method will allow us to change the property, some of the property inside that object, right? So yeah, so let's go back and write. So now again we are dealing with id, right? Because how someone is going to update, right? Basically they're gonna put here the function put, and maybe they say, okay, I want to update my data for id 2. You have this API link to send, right? But again you must attach the update data also here. So JSON, and you must put it here. No more Robert Welker, but maybe John something, right? Like that. So let's say this is updated name. Okay, when you submit, when you send, now it will, for that particular ID, it will go to the database and do the update and all that, right? But normally what I understand, right, when you updating something, they in our let's say in our MongoDB there is a function, correct, in the model, get user by ID and update, remember, and that function is taking care of everything. So something similar happens here also, right? So how are we going to mimic, or how are we going to demonstrate how to update, right? How so we have this. So first we have to write all the code, so let's do that. So it will be in the ID, and what I will do, I'll just copy this whole thing and put here, or better will be post, right? Because we are posting. Okay, so let's get the post. It will be something similar to post. So that is put. Now this function will be put. Okay, and you must get the data, right, from the body of the JSON. That is fine. There is a props also, so we have to define props. Okay, there is already props for params, so we have to remove this one. No need. Well, just for now I'll keep it out. We can give it different name, right, and then define this body also. So if no name, that is fine, right? But we can check also here. Let's check first if the ID, right, is greater than 10, then response something here, like no user found. We can do that, and let's make it 402, right, or 400. Okay, and then we're gonna check if there is no name, then return this error. If everything is okay, then we're gonna do this. So now in the update we must get the ID, right? We must get the ID. So this will be same thing here. That's the props already for ID, and that will be the params, right? After next is same thing, same like a getting single user. Okay, same concept. The ID, you passing the ID to your URL, right, and that ID we're gonna receive to our get function, and now that ID we check. If the ID is greater than 10, then return this. We don't have that user, and return no user found something. You can just do this return part. Okay, if there is no, now in the body of the name, right, or body of the this page, if there is no data, there is no name, then return error also. If these two pass, then only we're gonna send this body with status 201. Okay, so now, yeah, so that is good enough. Let's try now, right? That is put. put, right? Yeah, so let's test this. Okay, I believe this will work. Is there anything else? Let me check. So we check the yeah, so that is fine, right? And body, and then you response. So response will be okay. One more thing, right? We are just responding, we're just responding whatever we're getting in the body, correct? So we can, you can, what we can do, we can basically add object here, right? And give it id equal to id and name colon body dot name. Let's do that one. That's fine. Okay, let's test. So put, you have the id 2, and in the body you have name, right? John something update. Okay, and send the request and see what we get. So see, we have this object with id 2, and John something update is updating already. So everything worked fine. So if I put it, let's say 12, what we get? You're gonna get no user find, right? Okay, and if there is no name, no string, no user found, right? Also, so with this one it will give us the name, right? Let's say name is required, correct? 404. Yeah, so something is not correct. So first one id, okay, that is, I understand that. If id is greater than 10, oh, okay, because we are checking for the id, right? I must do, already I throwing this off. Let me put it 3 here, and now send request. So id is okay, but the thing is name is required, right? Now the id check is done. Next page is checking the name, and we just check the name, and it says name is required. And if everything is okay, let's say robot welcome, send request, you get, see, that's id 3 with a new update right here. All right, so that is done. So what is the next one now? So we did it, which one? We did the create single, get all objects, get single object, post, right? We did update. Now finally is delete, right? Delete. So delete is also same thing, okay? The format is same, right? Format is same. The letter, only thing gonna add here, right, is basically the things we're gonna add is the model, connecting to the database, getting that id object and deleting that or updating that, something like that. Even post, right, you're gonna use model to save the data to the database, but the whole process will be same, okay? So here I'll just copy this, guys, no need to type for delete, because we deal with the id also, right? So we just put in the id section here. So request, next request params, because we're dealing with the id, we know that we have this props already on the top. And if id is greater than, let's make it 10 here, then error, no user found, 404. If everything okay, then just send this message for now, right? User deleted and all. So let's check, go back now to the delete, and I want to delete user 3. So let's send the request, and the user deleted. Look at this. All right. Okay, so next step, right? Validation of our, we have HTML form. You fill out the forms. Now you're gonna get the data to the, you are receiving the data. You want to validate that data, right? So Jod is one of the, like, very easy to understand, plus I believe very most used library, right? Jod. So that's the link. Okay, this is the Jod. So I, even I have not read through all this. There is so many things, right? You can use for, to update. Okay, for array, mean, max, length, whatever, right? Maps. I mean, there is so many things. Okay, because validation is what, checking something is correct or not. If you want the username, the character, right, greater than 6 and less than maybe 15, something like that. So you need to put a validation. Okay, so that somebody try to enter the new user, the format is correct, right? That is all done with the validation. Okay, so there are many different things we have to understand, but simply, we will learn today is install this Jod, and just used for validation, how we can do that, right? With our name, basically simple name. Okay, so what we can do now, you can cancel this and say npm install Jod. Okay, so this is just a library, you install that. Now for example, let's say in the update, right, I have this data, body data, remember this body has name. I want to validate this, right? Here maybe this name I want to validate. So how am I going to do that? First I have to import g, okay, from Jod. Simple. Okay, so one thing I have done mistake, right? This will be written, this you can write separately. Okay, in this you have to build something like a schema. Okay, here, right? So look at this, Jod. So you define your schema because you want to check right now the user data, right, the body. So for that is you define one schema, something simple like this. So import g, right? G dot object is a function, so you import the g object dot again object, that's the name of the function. Object is basically the name of the function, and you pass your configure, right, basically all your validation here. So for now I just have name, maybe I have a age, right? Let's say age, and then I'm going to say this g, right? G dot, you check what you want to check now, right? Let's say age is maybe number, so I'll say g dot number, right, like that. Okay, so number will be function again, you have to put it like a function, everything will be like a function. And so this is validated, right? Age will be always number. You can check the mean, there is no mean length, right, or max length. But if you have password, okay, how are we gonna check? So here you say password will be maybe let's say z dot, right, let's say it's not, maybe first we can make it string, let's make this a string, and then I think mean, you can check for mean length, maybe mean length, mean something, mean you can put it maybe at least 6 character, 6 something, dot max, you can add max again, so you can put maybe, oh no need, a minimum is 6, right? So if I put, look, let's make it max maybe 12, right? Yeah, so minimum 6, maximum cannot go above the 12, so similarly you have to input all this information. So you have to find, right, maybe during our project we will check what are the things we're going to do for validation, what are the fields we're going to have, and what are the property or how we can apply, right? And I'll try to find some document also if I can, if not, need to read through this one. Okay, this Jod little bit table, but don't do now, right? Maybe starting next week after your test. So there are all the data types of data, types, because validation is what, it's checking the number, how long, how short, small character, large character, right, capital, there is so many things mix up, right, in validating information. Okay, so but for now let's delete this, I don't need. Once you have this done, right, name and then export default schema, that's it. So now let's do the validation. In my post function I'm gonna validate this body, okay, or maybe in the put also. So I will import schema, simple. Now here, right, because its body is already validating, what we can do now, schema dot I think pass, what was safe parse, so safe parse, yeah. So this is the function, okay. Safe parsing means whatever you pass, look at here, name, string and all that, right. So this will do the validation, okay. This function will do the validation. You just pass the body now, right, and done. So it will return the information, like validated information, right. So it will return if there is error or something like that. It will return lot of, it will just return one object with lot of information inside, okay. So we just call this one validation, right, or validated, something like that, dated, okay, data. That will be variable, so we must do equal sign. Good. Now here what we do, right, validated dot maybe success, yeah. So let's say if there is no success, success fell, right, the name is required, it will just do this one. If there is no name, it will do this string name is required field. So let's check now, let's check if this work. So let's go to the post function and then post, we are posting, right, so that route is just the user, and you're gonna go to the raw JSON, and in the body first I'm gonna transfer nothing, okay. Let's put nothing here, empty, and send, right, send request. So did not get anything. Let's see, go back to our, oh, the server is not running, guys. Run development. Yeah, okay, so let's refresh the page. Let's refresh this, everything looks fine. I'll go back to here and then resend again, right, with name empty, and see if Jod is working or not. Okay, so name is required, right, we got this, yeah. So yeah, so that let's check now in our, so everything looks fine, right, this validation is working. But what happened now, right, if you console log this validated, or let's call it validation, okay, just change this validation, right. So if I console log this, you know, you're gonna see some information there. Validation, let's check. So very simple, I'll send again request, and we should get some console now. So see, the success is false, right, and error, there is some information there in the error. So let's display this error, right, let's display this error message, okay, let's do that. So here error, so it's coming from validation, okay, so validation dot error, and inside there is one more, I think, error property, and see now see what we get, right. Send again, and look at this, you just return this whole error now, right. The code message string must contain at least 3 characters. Look at this message. So you can grab this message right now and display that in the user, maybe in the front end, no? you can grab that message and display. So Zod is working already fine. Okay guys, so that is the, same thing you can do with the post, not post, this is the post already, but the put part right here, same thing, so you can, once you write the schema for Zod, just import schema, and in your put part here, so it will check the ID, that's fine, but for the body, right, we can say const validation equal to schema dot safe parse, right, like that, yeah, safe parse, and then you parse the body, and after that we check here if validation dot success is fail, right, false, then you return this message, but here we can call the error. So error, basically validation dot error dot errors again, right, next property. So when you have multiple objects, you have to, just chain it, right, chain through, good to go. So now you can do the put here, and put must be ID, so let's make it 3, and in the body, so for now let's send it 3 and just empty body, right, and see what happens. You get that error, okay, you get that error, but here I say this is update and send again, and look at this, ID 3, this is update, everything is looking fine. Okay guys, so that was all about today class. We learned the all methods of the API building, and also a little bit get idea on Zod, right, for validation. So we will be using Zod for validation in our project, and it will, once you understand Zod, it makes so simple, easy to use, right, and it will be very helpful, okay, because when you create client project, right, you have to validate all the data and do all this kind of checking, right, and Zod will solve that problem. It just will be very convenient to use, and easy to understand also. So we will use in our project, and that will clear all your any doubts. So thank you very much, and any question you can ask me. I will stop recording.